Hello and welcome to the 60 for 30 project. My name is Xander Miller with the Kenosha Public Library. I'm sitting here with the Reverend David Arrington. How are you doing, David?
Good afternoon, doing well.
Awesome, that's good to hear. So let's get started right away. So what area are you from, or what area did you grow up in?
Specifically, I lived in the Wilson Heights area for the majority of my life. Real briefly, my father, the late pastor Olin Arrington Jr., was called to Second Baptist Church. Second Baptist Church is located in the 10th District. And so when Dad went there to pastor, we lived in the 10th District for the duration of his ministry. Mm-hmm. All the homes that I had bought when I returned home from college were in the 10th District. And so I would say that I'm pretty well introduced to the Wilson Heights area.
All right, so you're basically you've been there most of your life?
The majority. I just recently moved. I don't live in the Wilson Heights area currently, but I do continue to try to be as active and present as possible. I did serve the Wilson Heights area as a Kenosha County Board Supervisor for 4 terms. I had an opportunity to represent the 10th District in that capacity, and it was very rewarding. I love the constituents that voted for me, and I love the area that I was representing at that time.
All right, that's good. That's all great to know. So, what do you think is Kenosha's culture, or how have you experienced Kenosha's culture?
Kenosha is very diverse. You have several different kinds of people with several different kinds of tradition. And it, honestly, I wouldn't say it necessarily depends on the neighborhood that you grew up in, but there are specific areas in Kenosha where the traditions are different. And you can tell as far back as when probably the Italians that came to Kenosha. You see a lot of the Italian restaurants that still exist. You see the pizzerias. You see St. Joseph High School, Trimper High School, Bradford. Now they added Indian Trail. So I would say that Kenosha is just, if anybody can come and live here, but they have to figure out where they would best be benefited based on what it is and how it is that they live their life personally.
So is that like living in different areas choosing where you live helping the benefits, or could you explain that a bit more?
Well, I have had the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to work for Kenosha Unified Schools as a substitute teacher.
Okay.
And so I had over 17 years of observation of the students in the Kenosha area, which gave me the opportunity to work with the parents. I also coached football for 16 years in Kenosha. And so I had an opportunity to work with several different walks of people all over Kenosha. The Lance, Trimper areas of Kenosha, which is considered the South Side, Lincoln, these are the south areas of Kenosha. Traditionally, things are different in those areas than in the Bradford, Bullen, Wilson Heights area. If you wanted to go specifically by schools, you've got now Mahone and you've got ITA, and they've developed a culture out there as well. Just how Kenosha has expanded. And then you have to include the students that come from Pleasant Prairie that are basically split between Lance Middle School and Mahone Middle School. And so that's what I've had the opportunity to see. Parents in terms of, and the housing and the subdivisions that have been built on the other side of Green Bay Road where ITA and where the middle school is, Mahone Middle School, the houses are newer. The parents, apparently, you know, some probably have different jobs where they commute, and I would challenge to say that they probably earn more money out in those areas versus some of the areas in Lincoln area. You still have some diehard people that have lived in the Lincoln area all their life, because those people generate revenue into St. Joseph and into Trimper. But I would say, if we're talking from a standpoint of money and different, the perimeter of Kenosha County, Pleasant Prairie, on the side where Indian Trail and Mahone is, on the other side of Washington, you have houses going towards almost Summers out that way, and then you have on the other side of Sheridan Road down there, there's Morelli's Deli, and that area is very old traditional Kenoshan people. Lots of revenue down in those areas.
So would you say a lot of the differences you've seen over the years comes a lot from how much revenue someone makes or their income, or is that's what's contributing to
Well, you can tell. You can tell by the student, and I'll just use the student as an example. You can tell when a student has come from a less of a word, more financially stable home versus a home that is not as financially stable, and you tend to see more financial stability in that Lance and Trimper area, in the ITA and the, I keep forgetting, Mahone area versus Bullen, where Wilson Heights children feed into Bullen, and that Washington area where there's an area of people in those communities over there on the other side of Sheridan Road where Washington Middle School is located. You can tell, some of the differences. And I think that it was just having the unique ability to be in a classroom and see different levels of confidence, different levels of stability, what children are benefiting from a financially stable home versus children that are not benefiting from a financially stable situation.
Yeah, how have you seen those differences affect kids growing up in your time?
Well, I mean, I've often said this in a jokingly manner, but if you have a student, this is just an example. If a student goes to Jeffrey, and then that student attends Lance, that student normally is very successful at Trimper, and people are going to say, well, how do you know that? Because I had an opportunity to sub this child at Jeffrey. I watched this child, because I worked in the district for almost 17 years, watched this child come to Lance and grow academically, and then I watched this child when I have opportunities to sub at Trimper, and I've watched the process. That's how I was able to come to the determination about this, versus I've seen some students struggle at different schools on their educational path, and people ask, well, what does that have to do with the financial stability? It has everything to do with it. Children that are, eating a better diet, children that have more stability at home, children that don't have to uproot and move as much, they probably tend to do better. And so that would be my example.
Okay. So in the time you've been in Kenosha, how has that personally affected you in what you've aimed to accomplish? Running for on the county board and all of that. How has that all affected your experiences here?
What I tried to do when I was on the Kenosha County Board is that I served in these subcommittees, and the two most important subcommittees that I feel are on the Kenosha County Board are the Human Services Committee and the Judiciary Law Committee. To be perfectly blunt with you, Human services a large majority of the African Americans in this city through different state-funded programs, food share and affordable housing situations that they, and Badger Care for the insurance. Judiciary law had the opportunity to work with Sheriff Beth for 8 years. I've known Sheriff Beth for probably 30 years. And those different things in terms of writing policy and creating jobs for a more diversified sheriff department and for a more diversified correctional officer department, giving minorities and women the opportunities to be hired into these positions and receive the training at Gateway to become deputized officers and or correctional officers. Things like that were some of the things that I tried to accomplish to bring a confidence to the neighborhoods that these jobs are obtainable, to also educate people about home ownership, not always renting, home ownership, and about first-time home buyers, and et cetera. So those were the major things that I really tried to push home for them when I was on the board.
Mm-hmm. And so, how have you seen the effects of those? You know, you're no longer on the board, correct? And how have you seen the effects of your time on the board now that you've been off of it for a bit?
Well, I mean, I think we're all facing a lot of different challenges right now. We had a situation here just last year. It happened in the 10th district where a police officer was involved, a young man was involved. The young man was shot, a lot of emotion involved in that. I do not want to play judge and jury on that. My own personal belief is that police officers have to continue to be community engaged, and people need to be more open to having conversations with law enforcement. Somewhere along those lines, the two have to meet up together for it to function the way it's supposed to function. And so that was a disappointment for me to see that happen literally down the block where I lived on. I lived on 32nd over there. In my first home I purchased over there. So it was literally like right down the block from where we used to live. And so some things have changed. I've reached out to some people, and I'm hoping that we can have more mentorship and more conversations with law enforcement so that we can resolve some of the communication issues that we're having in the community with them.
So it's like you'd like to see a developing relationship with law enforcement.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I get it. A lot of people would in a imperfect world, defund the police, but here it is. Police need funding, and so what you need to do is you need to educate police officers better on particularly dealing with African American people. There is a conversation that needs to continue to happen right here in Kenosha about how, and this points back, I'll tie these things together. Police officer that grew up in the Lance neighborhood, police officer, just because you had black friends don't mean you understand black people. Police officer went to Lance, one or two black kids there, versus attending a Lincoln or a Bullen, and then you became police officer. There's just so many things you can teach in a book. Have you ever interacted at a level where you're understanding some of the hardships that black people have experienced? And so, those are the kind of conversations that have to be had because, hey, again, you don't know what to do and how to deal with something that you've never experienced before. They can train you at Gateway, but if you are subliminally kind of hesitant to deal with the black community, well, then that does not make you a very beneficial officer. You've got to be able to develop your communication skills to be able to talk to people in the community to get them to cooperate with you. All right. And so, that's really much all I would say about that. But again, that's like me. If I've never dealt with a situation before and I don't know how to deal with it, I would be hesitant myself. And so
it's like you understand there's like, if you've never seen this situation, but you want to see, people actually communicate more between each other, because you've seen that in the schools, especially. There's a difference in interactions between, say, Lance and Lincoln, if you grew up in a school there or not, right?
I mean, Lance kids and Lincoln kids, they may end up playing on AAU teams together and stuff like that. But I mean, the culture in Lance's middle school is different than the culture in Lincoln. It's different, And so, I mean, again, if you have never, and I'm just, for those, that will see this, I'm just using some examples. They go for a kid that has gone through the Catholic school system. You went from St. Mary's to St. Joseph, and you saw 1 or 2, 3 or 4 black kids. You didn't go to Lincoln with 600 black kids. And so what am I saying? I'm saying that, it's hard to understand the nature of something that you truly never experienced. I'll give you a perfect example. Okay. When I worked at Washington Middle School with another teacher, and I came over from Bradford to be an assistant defensive coordinator, he couldn't understand why the uniforms couldn't get clean. He's like, "Coach, look at this, it's ruined." And I took him with me to the neighborhoods of where these young children, student athletes live. We knocked on doors and I took him because we had some things to do. And we incorporated, he cried. He cried because he had never seen that before. He said, "I can't believe our students are living like that." I said, "This is every day for them." And we incorporated a pregame meal and we started washing the uniforms. His whole attitude towards it changed because he had never seen that before. He had never seen, I gave him the scenario. Hey, not to say that all people do or do not have this. Kid from Lance comes home, puts his uniform in, mom washes it. And this is not stereotyping, but I'm just giving you a scenario. Kid from Washington comes home after the game, uniform sits in the basket till mom goes to the laundromat on Saturday. And it gets washed with everything else. Circumstances are different. Mom lives in an apartment, doesn't have a washer and dryer. Okay? I'm quite sure, and I want to say for the record, that there are people of all colors and all nationalities that experience hardship. I'm just using some examples to paint a picture for people to kind of, get the picture that I'm trying to paint and the differences across town, literally. And so, people, going back to the police issue, you've got a lot of white police officers that they've never had no relationship with black people, so they don't know. And black people, it's not like we're aliens or from outer space. Black people are different. We're different. We express ourselves different. We celebrate things differently. We're different. We're Americans, but we celebrate things differently in America. And so, there would definitely be something much to gain from us having more open conversation. And it just can't happen in a couple of meetings and having a couple of black people show up for a meeting. I mean, you literally need a town hall. You need them all in there, and they need to be able to express themselves. So.
And it's almost like you're describing one city, which sounds, it's one city but two different worlds of experience within one city.
Absolutely. And so, see, my background, what allowed me to experience Kenosha the way I have is that when my father left Fort Sheridan, and he left Fort Sheridan in '74, and we moved into Waukegan. Dad was a vice principal at a high school there. I went to private school. And see, watch this. See, I understand. I was the only African American student in the kindergarten class. I understand the people that I was around. I learned a lot of different things that I did not know about white people. I didn't poke fun at it. I looked at it as an opportunity to gain friendships, to gain knowledge. To this day, I have guys that live here in Kenosha and out in the county, all over, and we have these friendships. But the thing that's different about me is that I was exposed to that. I went to St. Anastasia from kindergarten to 8th grade. Then I went into the public school. And I lived in a majority black neighborhood. But so I had a well-rounded educational experience. And then I went to a historical black college, university at Mississippi Valley State University, and the majority of that student body was African American. And so this is what I encourage when you talk about Kenosha. I've always said that we're overdue for these conversations. We have to stop walking around guessing like we know each other when we don't. I would encourage white people to ask more questions. I would encourage black people to ask more questions, Mexican, Latino. See, for me, I'm an extrovert, and so I don't hesitate to ask a question. And so that's why I've been able to be in several different circles, but everyone is not me. But that's what's needed in Kenosha. You know, we need to tear down the walls of separation from the traditional standpoint. See, I know, and I'm giving you an example.
Okay.
I know to go across town to get Italian beef at Morelli's. Mm-hmm. See, I'll come all the way from where I am to Morelli's. I've been to Frank's Diner. I've been to St. Joe basketball games. I've been in St. Mary's. I go to Luigi's. I've been to Luigi's. Yep. I've been to the both of the donut places. I mean, and I say these things, and I've had conversations with several groups of people: Latino, white people, black people, and so. If you're really looking for Kenosha to change, more of these conversations have to happen in Kenosha. Because you've got people guessing about what it is that they think of another person instead of asking the questions about why. Hey, perfect. Why are black people hesitant to interact with white folks? Why are they hesitant to interact with? That's a legitimate question. You know, I have my answer for that, but other people might have different answers. Mm-hmm.
So it's like a diversity of experience is required for people, like, and from all people, to get that diversity of experience and have those different conversations with all different sorts of people. Because if you're answering the question, you know, if I answered that question, it would be different. Mm-hmm. And so getting those conversations and asking those questions of different sorts of people, that's what you're looking to see?
Sure. You know, I mean, because in the end of the day, you and I are black, but we probably don't think the same. And so that is what they have to take that into account. You know, that they're black, but that doesn't mean, stereotypical. You might not like hot sauce on your chicken, but I do. And so, something as simple as that. Mm-hmm.
I do like hot sauce on my chicken.
I do, man. I'm gonna tell you, if you're looking for a good hot sauce, man, I always use Louisiana. Mm-hmm. I like Tabasco. Try it's called Slap Your Mama. Try that. It's a down south thing. So.
See, I've done Frank's.
Mm-hmm. I like Frank's red dye. I like that. That's good stuff. Mm-hmm.
So, is there anything else that you'd like the Kenosha community to know, or other Kenosha leaders, or anything that we've just missed?
Come together.
Come together?
Come together. Come together. Come together. My fellow black leaders that are out there, speak your mind. Don't hesitate to say what's on your mind. my fellow white leaders, Latino leaders, and any other nationalities out there, speak your mind. We are overdue in this city for people to put it on the table, okay, on where we're at. If you don't like somebody, but you have to try to work together for a common cause in the neighborhood, you need to put your personal feelings aside and get it done for the future of this city. Okay, I felt like the riots or the burnings in this city were terrible. Okay, I won't give credit to anybody doing anything on behalf of whatever took place in Kenosha. I'm just glad that it subsided. Okay, because for less of a word, Kenosha is really a peaceful place. Mm-hmm. It's not like Chicago or Milwaukee. But that's my message to everybody. Do your part. You know, David Arrington doesn't have to be the face of the black leadership. I'm fine wherever I am, whatever I can contribute. But I would tell my fellow black leaders to keep on fighting and keep on pressing forward for the changes that you want. And I would tell every other leader of every other nationality, we all need to be able to come to a table and sit to agree to disagree and hash it out and stop allowing it to go forward like it's been going forward, you know. And to my law enforcement here in Kenosha, guys, I back the blue. What I don't back is police officers that aren't doing their job, okay? And who am I to say that? I'm not. But you have to be accountable for your actions to what you do to the people in the community. You have to make sure that you understand the community that you're policing, you know. And to clarify, there are many African Americans that are in law enforcement. Mm-hmm. And there are African American people out here that need to hear this. Those people, that is the job and profession they have chosen. Okay, because people say, oh, you back the blue, or you that. No, it's not the blue, it's who's wearing the blue sometimes. Okay, a racist is a racist. He was a racist before he became a cop, he's a racist cop. I know good police, okay? I know a woman, and she worked and retired. If she sees this, she's gonna know I've been talking about her, because she makes the best cake and the best cookies of all time. She served in Kenosha Police Department for almost over 25 years.
Wow.
And she was excellent, and she represented her profession excellently. But what I'm saying is that for us in the black community, with our black police officers and our black first responders, people that, you know, they're just as responsible. They have to go out and risk their lives too. And so we need to open up our minds. And I always suggest to our young people to seek these careers in law enforcement. Okay, it's not about, I wanted to be a police officer. I wanted to be a sheriff deputy. But, you know, I was led in some different directions where I didn't seize those opportunities early in my life. But I just want to see I want to see the city come together, you know. And I'm talking about not talking about coming together. I want to see us get back to embracing each other, coming together. And if we come together, these kids will come together, mm-hmm. and Kenosha will be what it should be.
Well, Reverend David, thank you so much.
God bless you.